So in this video I'll show you how to create a quiz within Canvas, and I'll show you some of the things that I've done with these quizzes in the past in my classes. So I'm going to start with the different courses that I have here. So I'll show you how I've used it in the past first, and then I'll show you some of the different options that I've only played around with a little bit that might be helpful for you. So I'll go to one of my previously made courses here, and if we scroll down, I've got a couple different modules here. But you can see here I've got a Chapter 21 self-check quiz. Down here we've got Chapter 22 self-check quiz. So these are quizzes that the students can take over and over again. They're not graded by me, but they're just for practice for the kids to see how well they're doing with the different concepts that we're learning about. Okay, so I'll show you how to create those. So I'm going to go back to the new course. And over on the left hand side you'll see quizzes. Yours might be grayed out or it might be black like this. It doesn't matter, it just whether or not you have something in there or not. And then on the right hand side I'm going to go over to where it says create a new quiz. So you can title your quiz whatever you want. I'll call mine Canvas Quiz. And you start off in the settings page. So you can give it some instructions here. Your typical word features. You have 4 different options for quiz types. So if you click on this drop down menu here, you've got practice quiz, graded quiz, and then the graded and ungraded surveys. The quizzes and the surveys offer you slightly different features. The practice quiz and the graded quiz are pretty much the same thing. They let you assign answers, whereas surveys you don't get to assign an answer. It's their opinion. So the only difference between a practice quiz and a graded quiz is whether or not it goes into your gradebook. So we'll start off with the graded quiz, and I only have one assignment group right now called assignments. You might have other assignment groups, but if you do set up the gradebook within Canvas, which will eventually link to PowerSchool, then you can have it be called different things within your assignment groups. Some of the various options here, you can shuffle answers, you can put a time limit on it. If you want to give a quick 10-minute assessment, you can actually limit them to that. You can allow multiple attempts, so with my practice quizzes I do allow multiple attempts, and you can either keep the highest score or the latest score. You hope that they're the same, but we know that that's not always the case. And then you can set the number of attempts that you want as well. So for my AP kids I usually set it to 4. It's just some arbitrary number, but they seem to be okay with that. Then you can decide whether or not you want to have the students see their own responses, and then whether they can see the correct answers, and if they do, at what time and date do you want to show those correct answers, and how long do you want them to be visible for. Okay, so you can use the calendar settings to decide how long these features are going to last. You can have it show one question at a time or all on the same page as well. These last couple here are usually only important for regulating the students. So for my students who have taken my course only online, who I don't see day to day, I did require an access code for any quiz or test that I gave them. And what this did is they can see that there was a quiz that was due, but they couldn't access it without coming and talking to me first and getting that access code. So maybe you're doing something in your class and you don't want them to start without you saying that it's okay to start. We all know how they like to sneak and get a little head start even when we don't want them to. So if you require an access code, you can have a password there, and then when you're ready for them to take the assessment, you can give them that access code and they can all log in and do that at that point. Just to make things easy, I've always made the access code whatever the title of the quiz is. They didn't really catch on to that, but it just made it easy for me to remember what the access code was. You could also filter by IP addresses, so if you want to make sure students are taking it on their own laptop and not doing it on a friend's, although that might get a little bit tricky if somebody's doing their homework at somebody else's house or doesn't have access to a computer, it might just be more trouble than it's worth. If you have different groups within each class, you can decide when the due dates are going to be for those different groups of students. So for me, I had some students in class, some students only online, so I had different due dates for each of those different groups of students, although that's probably going to be pretty rare. And then if you change something within the quiz after it's published, it's probably a good idea to notify users that the quiz has changed, just so that they can take a look at it. If it's not published yet, I don't know if it's worth doing that quite yet. I'm going to not click on the save yet because we don't have any questions in our quiz yet. So up in the questions tab, we have a couple different options here as well. So the practice quizzes that you saw in my module were group questions. So what this means is I had a group of 10 questions, 1 point per question, that links to a question bank. So my textbook is nice enough to offer a test generator with different questions for each chapter that I can then pull from to make these quizzes. Okay, so chapter 26 has 49 questions. If I select that, now I'm going to have 10 questions randomly pulled from chapter 26, and if I create the group, I've now got this quiz of 10 questions. So you can see my point value in the top right has changed to 10 points, and it randomly picks 10 questions from that 26. Now the students can take these practice quizzes as often as they want, and it generates 10 new questions for them. So it really is just for them to gauge how well they're doing with the material for those practice quizzes. You may want to pick specific questions, so in that case you want to go to the New Question button. Here you also have some options, so you can call this question number 1 or however you want to title it, and you can either have it be multiple choice or any of these other options. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. You've probably used them before. The fill in the blank, you just want to leave some blank in there, so leave an underscore, and then students will see that the question followed by a small text box to type their answer. The nice thing about Canvas is they give you many different possible answers. So if you have a numerical answer and you don't care how many significant figures there are, you can put a couple different options in there so it doesn't mark it wrong if they write 39.0 or just 39. Same is true if you don't care about spelling. You might want to put some common spelling errors that you might think of, or different ways of phrasing the answer, as long as they're still correct. Otherwise it will mark it incorrect. Some of the other options here, again, most of these are pretty straightforward. The formula question one I like, and it does take a little bit of playing with, but if we give it a try. So the idea here is that you put a formula in so that each student will get a randomly generated set of variables. So they're practicing the same concepts, they're just doing it with different numbers. So the example that they gave us is, what is 5 plus x? And then the variable is x. It's going to put some value in there, and to define it as a variable you have to put those brackets around it. If I hit the tab button, we now have to define this variable. So we've got variable x here. Right now the default setting is it's going to pick a number between 1 and 10 with 0 decimal places. So if we wanted to pick it between 1 and 100 with 2 decimal places, so it randomly generates 33.31. So now we have to tell Canvas what the correct answer is. So this one's fairly simple. So we're going to type in 5 plus x. We're going to click our save button, and we get 38 as our answer. Okay, so you don't need the brackets down in the formula definition here. Okay, so what this did is it took 5 plus x, which right now is 33.31. So 5 plus 33.31 is 38.31, but I have my decimal places set to 0. If I change that to 2, you'll see it will add the 0.31 to the end there. So the last thing we have to do is tell it how many different combinations we want. So if you want one combination per student, let's say you have 25 kids in your class, you would type 25 in there and then generate, and each kid is going to get a different solution here. Okay. If you only wanted 5 different solutions and you don't care if some of them overlap, obviously you just type in 5 and you'll get your different answers. You can click on Update Question. So now we have a quiz with 11 points, 11 different questions, the 10 randomly pulled from the test bank, and then the 1 question that we created here. So the final step here is to click on Save. And this is going to give us our different options that we've selected. And before the students can actually see it, the last step is to click on Publish. And then it's going to let you know that the quiz was published, and if you want to take the quiz and test and make sure that it's correct, you can do that, or you can just move on from there. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.